So with that, I guess we can go into topic 3, which I guess is more IU. I guess I could sort of facilitate this topic since basically Nate and Andrew basically told us, yeah, you're gonna talk your album. It's an IU retrospective. I was like, and when we first got on this call, we were like, don't know what that means, but we'll just go with it. I guess we'll kind of structure it kind of like how me and Andrew did with last week talking about FX. So basically, I guess I'll ask you when and how did you first get into IU, I guess?
That's actually a good question. I think maybe I mentioned this on the first podcast I was on.
Okay.
When I did my thing, or K-pop story or whatever. I forget what the topic was. So I found when I first got into K-pop, it was like SNSD and like 4 Minute and Secret and those kind of groups.
The same.
Yeah. And then, so this is before Last Fantasy came out. This is like 2011. So at this point, IU only had Growing Up, and then whatever singles she had that weren't on Growing Up. But I think Growing Up was everything. But so like she didn't really have that much music at this point. I really liked. I found the song Mia on or Lost Child, whatever the song title is.
Yeah.
I guess it gets both. I found that on YouTube, and I was like, man, this song is amazing. This is fantastic. Because that's very different than, like, obviously SNSD or something. That's a completely different vibe to it.
Yeah.
So I didn't really like Growing Up that much. There's a lot of, especially because Growing Up is, like, the part of IU's career where she was featuring a lot of male artists that were just awful, and they were ruining her songs.
Yeah.
So like she wasn't getting those GD features yet. Like that comes much later.
She was like basically like the epitome of like 2009 K-pop pretty much back then.
Yeah. So like there was a lot of like very weird choices on Growing Up where like you have like her very like airy like vocals, and then you have like some sort of like male K-pop star come in and start like rapping, and it's like that. It just did not work.
Yeah, it's like, who are you? Get out.
Yeah. So Growing Up didn't really catch me. There was a few songs I added to my playlist, but I wasn't really like an IU fan or whatever. And then I kind of just like became involved in like the K-pop scene and following releases. And then like the next year after I got in was when Last Fantasy came out. And like the first time I listened to Last Fantasy, I was like instantly hooked. I was just like, this is one of the best albums I've ever heard in my life. So I need to like learn more about IU. And then I listened to that album. It's probably my most played album, just because those first few years when I was into K-pop, I didn't have like that big of a library, so I was just like replaying a lot of stuff. This got a lot of replays.
Yeah, that's me. Like if I had Last FM back in like 2011, 2012, like my SNSD plays would probably be like half of yours, maybe. Like they'd be ridiculous.
Yeah. So that's when I got like really into IU was through Last Fantasy, and just like being able to see that there was like a whole different aspect to K-pop that I was missing, which is like more. I don't want to like demean other K-pop, but like more artistic. Like it's certainly like less like mainstream pop style. Like a song like
more artsy.
Like Last Fantasy itself, or like Le Mans, like those are like that's like jazz songs. That's you don't hear that kind of stuff in the rest of K-pop. And
I think the way I'd put it is like it's very she was very theatrical back then. I think
for sure. I think theatrical is probably the best way to describe her, especially like her vocals are very like soaring, and like the instrumentals are like full orchestras and that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
And then ever since then, I've followed everything she's put out, and it's been fantastic.
Yes.
Last Fantasy is still one of my top 5 albums all time.
Yes. Like IU is one of those like artists that like when I was in Korea, like you'd ask like, oh, who do you like Korean artists or whatever. Every single time, if it's a girl, IU. If it's a girl you're talking about, they love IU.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why, because it's interesting because she started out as kind of like very much male-centric K-pop idol. Yeah. Whereas like I guess what we're talking about in the last topic, I feel like since Cheshire, like, or maybe in modern times, I feel like she's definitely become more of a like I guess to the lesser extent of Lim Kim, I guess, like she's like a little bit woke, I guess, in that sense, is like I'm not a doll kind of thing. Like she's very like, I guess, female empowerment, I should say, in that she kind of took her work into her own hands and you know, made it her own art. I'll put it that way, I guess.
Yeah, like you can tell definitely at the beginning of her career, it was like they were marketing her as like a specific type of thing. Yeah, and like I still love the music that came out of that era, but you can tell that she didn't necessarily like that style that she was being forced to play. And I think she's much more in line with what she's doing now, which is good to see. But like, I mean, like, I think the best thing to point to is that there's literally a song on Last Fantasy called Uncle, and it's like addressed to her uncle fans. Like, you can't get more blatant than that.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I didn't get into IU until a little bit later. I'd say probably around a little bit before Modern Times came out, I think, in 2013.
Yeah.
Or maybe 2012, late 2012, maybe early 2013. I don't remember exactly when Modern Times came out, but
I think it was.
I know it was 2013.
I think it was like October 2013, I think.
Okay, yeah, because I know it was a little bit before then, so it was probably back in like 2013.
Yeah.
Because yeah, so it basically is like kind of the basic thing through I Found Good Day and You and I. Like I had known those songs for a long time because those are just like classics and everybody knows those. Yeah. But like before then, I actually like had started like listening to the albums and like pretty much what she had up till then. Mostly Real and Last Fantasy, I'd say. Not as much as her like really old stuff, I guess.
Yeah. I think like Real, and people underrate it, but like Real Plus, which is only like 3 songs, that's also really good.
Yeah.
I think that's like when you first get the first glimpse of like IU. Like growing up is very much like work in progress. Like you can see maybe there's some potential there, but it doesn't quite come together. And then with Real and Real Plus, you kind of start seeing it form together. And then like Last Fantasy is when it actually like, oh man, it's all here.
Yeah, I agree. I think like there's a lot of different like turning points. Like like 2009 to about 2011 is when it's like very much like, I don't want to say cookie cutter, but it's kind of like very much like poster child for like girl idol in K-pop. Yeah,
they didn't really know what they were doing with her, or she didn't know what she was doing. Like it was kind of just like they tried a bunch of different stuff, and they didn't quite settle on what they wanted to do.
Yeah, and then I'd say like 2011 to 2013 is kind of her sort of starting to take more control. And then between like 2013, 2015 onward is kind of when I feel like she really like took everything completely. Specifically Shot Shower, like what we talked about earlier. Like from there on, it's like it's distinctly different, I think.
Yeah.
Even like a flower bookmark. Those 2 albums, I really, really enjoy those because those are like distinctly different from the rest of her work. And I think they really fit the vibe with like just the name of the albums themselves. Flower Bookmark, like it's very I don't know, naturey, it feels like. I don't know how to explain it. It's just how it sounds, you know what I mean?
I do like that. I hope she like continues the Flower Bookmark series because it's a nice little like side project from like her normal albums where it's like I'm just gonna make a whole bunch of remakes of old songs.
Yes.
And like she does like, it's not just like re-singing the same song. She like does cool things with them and like modernizes them,
reinvents them.
But it's like a nice thing that like I think if she released those albums as like main albums, I might be disappointed by them. But because they're almost like a side thing, it doesn't feel like she has like two parallel tracks, and it's not like, you know, ping ponging back and forth between different styles or something. Yeah, it works quite well, I think.
Yeah, I think I could almost agree with that. Like if they were released as like normal albums, like people might think they're boring.
I think that's the danger. Like if you don't, especially if you don't like
I need to be in a specific mood to listen to these albums, but I do often, especially part 2. I listen to part 2 a lot.
I think part 2 is a lot better than part 1.
Yeah, part 2 is fantastic. Like I think we reviewed it, and I'm pretty sure I gave it a 10. Like I really, really liked part 2. I listened to it a lot, particularly sophomore year of college. So which is when it came out, I guess. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the main thing that appeals to me nowadays about IU is, again, just her artistry. Like, I feel like she's one of those artists in K-pop who I feel like has really reined in the control over her own art and is really, again, a true artist. Like IU, Epic High, you know, Jonghyun and his solo albums. I think he really was really thoughtful. Like, again, I really like when you can feel like the thoughtfulness in their work. Like, you can feel them in their work. And I think like, you can definitely feel it sort of progressing until she finally sort of does it in the end, I guess, which is it's really satisfying to me.
Yeah. I like the difference between, like, the Red Shoes is my favorite IU song, but the difference between the Red Shoes or You and I, or you can very much tell they're written for her and she just performs them.
Yes.
And they're amazing and I love them, but it's very different from like 23 or Palette or BB. Like, those are very personal songs, like, that you can tell that her story is coming across in those songs. That's what makes them so good as well. Yeah.
Again, even in this year with Persona, I think it's like like that whole series felt like her music in movie form. Like, it's like it feels very much like her, and I think she's very good at like expressing herself to the audience, and sort of the way I'd put it is like sharing a piece of herself and her like sort of truth on reality, I guess, to put it in kind of overly deep terms, but yeah,
I definitely agree with that.
So yeah, I'm not sure how else to really expand on this topic, so maybe we could end it there. This is a super short episode, but
I was gonna ask, what would you think? What's like your favorite IU release and your least favorite?
That's a good question. I don't know about a least favorite, but it's probably one of the 2009 albums, probably for least favorite. Like, I think those are definitely the most forgettable, because I think she wasn't really what I consider like quintessential IU until like Real. I think Real is when it really is like from 2010 to 2019. Like, that's what I think of, I guess.
Yeah.
Usually. My favorite release is that's really hard. Like, honestly, I almost want to consider Flower Bookmark Part 2. Like, I really I really love that. I'd also consider Shotshire and Palette. Like, basically, like, anything she's been doing since 2015, I really like. It just brings to another level. Even Modern Times, like, that was fantastic. I think overall, I almost want to go for Palette, I think. Yeah. Like, just for an overall cohesive, like, piece, I think it works really well. I think I'd go with Palette, even though it's really, really close between, like, the four I just mentioned, but I think overall
that's the thing, like, it's hard to pick favorites because they're all so good.
Yeah.
I think I agree with least favorite. Least favorite is probably, if you include full albums, it's definitely Growing Up, just because it's like diamond in the rough. Like, there's some potential there. Some of the songs are not the best. Like, there's no bad songs, but they're like, questionable. Yeah. There's a lot of things where you listen to them and you go, that is a weird choice. Why did they do that? Yeah. I think for me, my favorite is definitely Modern Times. I remember when I was waiting for it to come out that I thought there's no way this will be better than Last Fantasy, because Last Fantasy was like my favorite album, and I go, there's no way she can surpass it, so I'm just gonna like set my expectations lower. And then I listened to it like, I don't know, many times, and I was like, holy crap, this is actually better. I really love like a lot of like the Latin vibes that flow through the album, and like the big band style of like Red Shoes specifically. For sure. It's just fantastic, and obviously like all of her releases are just amazing. Like when you look at my like top album list, like half the top 10 is IU albums, just because I like everything she puts out. Palette is amazing. Chatshire is amazing. I think the two Flower Bookmarks are more towards the bottom, but not because they're bad, only just because everything else happens to be better. Okay. And like you said, like I think everything she's put out
like you said, it's kind of like parallel tracks, like they're distinctly different, I think. So it's like whether you like them or not. Like Flower Bookmark Part 2, I just feel like it's different, but it's like a piece that I just keep going back to for some reason. Like I really love that album.
It's fantastic. I have no complaints about it.
So yeah, like again, these are pretty short topics. I don't really know how to expand upon it because it's kind of open-ended, but in the comments I'd like to hear what y'all's opinion is about IU, how you got into her, how you or maybe why you didn't, what your favorite albums are, I guess memories with listening to her music, interacting with her content, whatever. I'm interested to hear that kind of stuff, so comment down below definitely on that kind of stuff.
Or post in Discord.
Join Discord. People are friendly. Like, don't be afraid to get on and just start talking to people. We love people who stay. Because we get a lot of people who join and kind of just lurk, but it's all right if you want to do that also. It's just it'd be nice to get more talkers. It's always fun interacting with you guys. So yeah, I guess I'll wrap this up. So please subscribe if you enjoy our content, this sort of thing. Sort of, I guess, thoughtful discussion on music, concepts, etc. in K-pop. Again, comment. We love hearing feedback. Join Discord again. We're friendly. We don't bite much. And yeah, so yeah, thanks for listening. I hope you'll listen again next week. Check out our old videos. We have hundreds of them. And yeah, thanks for listening and goodbye. Any last thoughts from Barron?
Nope.
All right.
Listen to IU.
Throbbingly listen to IU.
Like the first time I heard the controversy, I was like, wait, what? Like, it almost seems like hard to believe that like, IU's a pedophile. It was a very strange thing.
I don't, like, you guys are overreacting to this.
Yeah, so I definitely was not on board with any of that.
Yeah. It's kind of weird too. Like, this is one of the only times I've seen